What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Hot and Cold Sports Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Andrew Watkins. You still can't see me, but you can see your other host, the amazing, the beautiful, the painting, the portrait, David Miller.
I gotta start letting you do the intro every week. That was beautiful. That was
Thank you.
absolutely beautiful. Um, but this week we're going to be taking a break from talking about the playoff games and whatnot. We will get back to that next week. We'll talk about the championship round as we go into talking about the Super Bowl. But this week we want to talk more about the NBA and the trade deadline going on. So, Andrew, this is more your area of expertise. So, what are your thoughts about the trade deadline so far?
Well, the trade deadline every year is like, well, being somebody that has covered it in the past on TikTok, it's like you are constantly keeping track of like a snowball effect. Because like you will say something and you will make a video about it. And you'll be like, oh, this person's going to go this way, and then another thing completely different happens, and then it's all crazy, and it's just as crazy this season as well because there's a lot of disappointing teams that people are linking certain trades to. And
Mm-hmm.
there's so many of those teams this year that there are like 40 different teams. It's not even possible, but there are 40 different teams that certain players can go to.
Right. So what deals have been done so far? I know there was the Karis LeVert trade. What are your thoughts on that one?
Oh, it's a pretty great trade, honestly. I
Mm-hmm.
think the Cavs, that was like a big spot that they needed to fill, considering they have Darius Garland and Jared Allen,
Mm-hmm.
which and it's like they literally just get a small forward and like complete the trifecta. But I think it's a good trade for both teams for sure.
Yeah, I
Uh,
saw a lot of people saying the Cavs got fleeced. I mean, I'm approaching this from a casual perspective, so I'm just kind of taking in what I'm hearing. But a lot of people were saying the Cavs got fleeced because they had to give up what, like two first round picks for him,
yeah,
and
they they gave it Ricky
yeah, and
Rubio
Ricky Rubio. That was the other piece.
a first and then 2 seconds. I think was the trade. I could literally have it on my phone
Oh,
because
I
I was
thought it
going to
was
make a
two
video.
firsts. Okay, well that's not as bad then. Um, I also like the move because Karis LeVert's still relatively young. So it's a move for the Cavs for both now because they're somehow like a decent team. I did not expect them to be this good. Maybe that's the casual in me coming out,
Really?
but I did not expect them to be good. And they're coming out and they could actually make some noise in the East, I think.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
he absolutely helps them this year. And then going forward, he's a piece that you can really utilize and keep around as one of your building blocks for this team because it's a young basketball team. You have these guys like Garland and Sexton and now LeVert and Mobley. It's
Yeah.
a young basketball team with a lot of really nice pieces that can really go somewhere. I'm basically saying the same thing over and over again, but
No,
I,
they're definitely one of the most promising young teams
mhm,
because they're doing this good and like they weren't supposed to be, and now they're only going to get better.
mhm,
Like Sexton is finally in that spot where he was basically the only person doing anything on the Cavs for like the longest time, and
mhm.
now Garland stepped up. Allen is playing like an all-star should be playing. You have Mobley, who is a Rookie of the Year
I forgot about
candidate, and
Allen.
then
Yeah.
yeah, Mobley, who's a Rookie of the Year candidate, and now you have Levert.
Mhm.
And I think the only big issue that they would need to fix is like maybe the bench, but it's clearly working so far.
Yeah. Speaking of Rookie of the Year, real quick, just to take a slight detour, I gotta shout out my boy Io, who God, I gotta pull up his stats from the other night. He had two real bad turnovers in that Raptors loss like 2 nights ago, right? Like in the fourth quarter or in overtime, sorry. Two real bad turnovers kind of cost us the game to a certain extent. And then he came back against the Pacers. Was that last night? Yeah, he had 15 and 14 off the bench. 14
Oh my
assists
God.
as a rookie. Dude,
What?
like the Bulls are, beat up right now. Like
Yeah.
we're basically playing with our G League team, Vooch, DeMar DeRozan, and Io. That's kind of what's out there right now. And for Io to step up like that is so huge, and it's making guys like Kobe White expendable, which I kind of hate because I'm a big Kobe White guy. But
Yeah.
if he continues to play like that, a guy like Kobe White, you can trade him. And the Celtics tried to get a hold of him. I texted you about that earlier,
Yeah, you did.
where the Bulls were trying to get Dennis Schroeder and this for Troy Brown Jr. and the Celtics said no, we want Kobe White, and the Bulls obviously were not going to do that.
It's very ambitious.
But Io, I think, is absolutely a rookie of the year candidate. I think the fact that he was like the 38th pick or something, he was a second rounder.
Yeah.
Dude's insane. I,
No,
I didn't know anything about him going into the draft, and
he's in
oh,
he's in a really good spot too,
mm-hmm,
considering how beat up the Bulls are. Like, if
yeah,
you have a beat up team like that, you're gonna like benefit as a rookie getting more
mm-hmm.
minutes.
And it's not even like he was playing bad before the Bulls started to get a lot of injuries. He's been making noise for months now. But now that he's
Yeah.
kind of one of the guys, he's playing great. I know we ended up losing to the 76ers, but he had a real nasty dunk on Andre Drummond today. And
Yeah.
he's a human highlight reel, dude. As a second round rookie, I love Io. Still don't know how to say his last name. Dasumu.
Yeah,
I think that's how you
I
say his
don't
last name.
even.
Dasumu. That's how
Yeah.
I've been saying it. But Io's that guy, and the fact that he's a hometown kid, went to Illinois, just makes it so much better. I'm getting Derrick Rose vibes from him, and I love it. Um,
Yeah.
what else has been going on with the deadline? I know Harden for Simmons. That's a
Yeah,
thing.
it's nuts.
How do you feel about
I don't
that?
know. That's been like a trade that was gonna happen when Harden was on the Rockets,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think the Nets would do that, or because well, of course it's James Harden. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like, and also I feel like having a player like Ben Simmons doesn't really raise any sort of potential that your team would have. It's sort
Mm-hmm.
of a weird fit because you're giving up one of your like main offensive players for like a player that you would only have for his defense, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have to like basically completely shift what is going on for the Nets for that to work.
And isn't it even not a straight swap? Aren't the Nets trying to get Maxi as well? Who's
Yeah.
like a major piece for the Sixers right now?
Yeah, I'd say it wouldn't be smart for the Sixers
Mm-mm.
either. I'd say Sixers trade that I would want to see for Ben Simmons would have been like Malcolm Brogdon like a couple months ago.
Interesting.
Because
Okay.
that was like super early on,
Mm-hmm.
was like people were saying that the Pacers like proposed that trade and they said no. And then also a trade for like De'Aaron Fox is like completely plausible. Like Ben Simmons and whoever else
Get
for
De'Aaron
De'Aaron Fox.
Fox on a real team.
Yeah, finally. I mean,
I
and
love
you
De'Aaron
also
Fox.
get I love him too. I have him in uh my league on 2K. He's just a quick
He's just fun.
boy.
He's fun to watch.
Yeah. And it would also like fix one of the biggest issues of the 76ers. They don't have like a speedy guard. Well,
Mm-hmm.
Maxi's like that now, but like they don't really have a second, like a super good second option for Embiid.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like the Nets actually came out and said that they're not trading James Harden. So that's good for them.
Yeah, good choice.
Oh, I forgot about the Rocco trade. Eric Bledsoe, Justice
Oh
Winslow,
yeah.
Keon Johnson, and a future second for Norman Powell and Rocco. Didn't Justice Winslow like the night before that trade happened? Wasn't he talking like after a game about how it feels like family with the Clippers? It's like the
Yeah.
closest he's ever been with a team. They're like, sorry about your luck, and
You're gone.
shipped him to Portland.
I feel so bad about
That is
that. But the
sad.
Clippers fleeced as well as the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Norman Powell is so good.
Yeah, I think it was last year's trade deadline where I really wanted the Bulls to make a move for him, and they didn't end up getting to. I think it was Norman Powell. If not, it was someone very similar, but I'm almost positive it was Norman Powell. There were rumors about, and
Yeah,
I really wanted the Bulls to pick him up because he is a stud. And
he's
Rocco's a
nuts.
hell of a defender.
I love Robert Covington.
Mm-hmm.
He's like one of my favorite players.
Yeah.
But that is such a good trade for them because like yeah, they have Reggie Jackson, but Reggie Jackson is not averaging 18 points per game this season on like amazing efficiency.
Right.
He's averaging pretty close. He's averaging 16.7, but like he's just Norman Powell's just like a better scorer in every way by like the a small margin. They just
Mhm.
basically they just raised their ceiling so much higher from having because now you can have Reggie off the bench
Yeah,
comfortably.
absolutely. Is there any other? I think those are the only two trades that have been made, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to look for more things that I've seen
When
for
is
like
the
trade.
deadline? What day is the deadline?
Let me look it up because I think it's literally like 5 days away.
Oh, it's the 10th.
Oh, so 4 days. Close.
Yeah, February 10th at 3 p.m. So on Thursday.
Oh. Uh
Oh, I forgot Bobo got traded. That's right. 3-team deal.
apparently I see this on my phone because I screenshotted it from Twitter, but
Mm-hmm.
Pelicans want they're going really aggressive for a guard like CJ McCollum or De'Aaron Fox.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but like I don't think that the Pelicans have enough pieces that they want to move around. Because like you have Brandon Ingram and Zion, who are basically the only two players that you physically have
Yeah.
that you are able to move.
Who the hell else is even on that team? Do they? I know they have Tomas Satoransky because we traded him for Lonzo.
I think they have Valanciunas, but I think yeah, they do have Valanciunas, but he's in my opinion he'd be too old to trade like
Devonte
De'Aaron
Graham's
Fox
there.
for. Oh yeah. But do you really want to give him up though? For like,
Fair enough.
I feel like you. No, I feel like you'd give up Devonte Graham and then like like two like a first round, a second round pick, and then probably like Valanciunas for De'Aaron Fox, something like that.
Oh,
Maybe no Valanciunas, but like you wouldn't like maybe just giving up Devonte would be
mm-hmm.
like what I would take for it, but then you'd also give up like like two picks,
Right,
and I'd be less okay with that.
right. Um, yeah, this. God, I did not realize the Pelicans were like this devoid of trade assets. Like,
No, yeah, they backed themselves into a corner.
yeah. Oh, the Bulls got the only one that mattered. So, oh well. Oh
Snagged him
well.
up,
Yeah,
saved him.
yeah. We saved Lonzo from the abyss. That's very true.
Thank
God,
God.
I love this Bulls team. I know I keep circling it back to the Bulls, but I love this team so much. This is the first year. This is probably the closest I've followed basketball ever, and it's been
Understandable.
worth it. Like I got into the Bulls like right after D Rose tore his ACL, like literally right after. So I didn't get
It's an
to.
awful time.
Yeah, that's why when I did the what's it called in your comments, my all time team for each position or whatever, like my
Yeah, you
favorite
didn't do it.
players, I put
Yeah.
white chocolate over them just because my dad got me into watching Jason Williams highlights, and they're so much fun. The dude is so
Yeah.
much fun to watch. The no look passes and shit. Um, but Rose, like I said, I started watching right after his prime. So my favorite players, that I've gotten to watch are like Jimmy Butler and
Yeah.
Pau Gasol and Taj Gibson, guys like that. Um, and beyond like one run that could have happened if Rajon Rondo didn't get hurt against the Celtics and whatever years that was, but was that like 2016 when it was Rondo, Wade, and Butler were the big three? Apart from that one playoff run, the Bulls have been garbage the entire time I've been into basketball. And with me being more into football, I never gave basketball a chance, but it kind of feels bandwagony. But now that the Bulls are good, I'm like more into basketball. Um, but I love
Yeah,
it.
I
It's so much
understand.
fun.
You've always been like a not a distant fan, but like you've been like keeping track of them.
Yeah, I mean, I follow the Bulls. I can remember talking to you last year during play rehearsals and stuff, sitting and talking about like how good random guys were on the Bulls that aren't on the team anymore. Like I think it was Tomas Satoransky I used to rave about all the time for no
Yeah,
reason, for absolutely no reason.
yeah.
It's just nice to have that team be good.
Yeah,
It's so
man.
nice, and even then, we're good, and everyone's just like, well, I'm hurt. I'm hurt. I'm hurt. Like we can't. I can't win. I can't win. It's just not fair. It's just not fair.
Well, speaking of not being able to win, the Celtics, on the other hand, we've been good since I've been a fan,
Mm-hmm.
and this year we're bad. But the thing is, ever since I went to the game, where I think we're on a 5 game win streak now,
You're the good luck
and
charm.
I know, I know. I think I should. I'm just gonna go to like a game every 30 games and then
Every
never lose
30
again.
games. There you go.
It's like renew it. But like, I like how aggressive we're being. I
Mm-hmm.
suppose so far in the trade deadline.
Trying to get Kobe
Like
White.
yeah, trying to get Kobe White for somebody as bad as Dennis Schroeder.
Has Schroeder been that bad
I've
this year?
yeah,
Okay.
he's like 14 points per game,
Does he
but like I
start?
would yeah,
Oof. Okay.
I think the like it's really a mess in Boston because like I think that he starts and then sometimes Marcus Smart starts.
Mm.
I think that's like the sort of dynamic that they have. But like I've been wanting to get rid of Dennis Schroeder basically since we got him
Yeah.
because he has pretty high value as like a bench player, but like he's our go-to point guard,
Right.
which is not good.
Aren't you guys trying to move on from Marcus Smart as well? I thought I saw something
Yeah,
about that.
and I've been saying that for a while
Yeah.
too. I've been saying that since we lost to the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals because I remember specifically watching him shoot us out of games on
Right.
multiple occasions. And I think that even though he's like one of the best defensive players in the league, you literally can't have that in a game. You
Yeah.
can't have somebody literally just taking the worst shots you've ever seen.
Right. Yeah, we had something like that with the Bulls game today. I was kind of loosely following it. I didn't get a chance to sit down and watch it. But Matt Thomas decided he was Steph Curry towards the end of the game and kind of fucked the Bulls over. Like Matt Thomas of all people. I gotta look up his numbers from this game. Hold on, because I saw so many people on Twitter like losing their minds over Matt Thomas.
Dear God.
Yeah, we lost by 11, which sucks. But Matt Thomas, what did he even have? Oh, he had 5 points. What were his shooting numbers? That's what I'm trying to figure. Oh my God, Alfonso McKinney was getting big time minutes. Ew,
Dear God, man. You guys are
Alfonso
in
McKinney.
trouble.
Oh no. Then that's another guy too that's been pissing me off. Tony Bradley has been a goddamn non-factor, which sucks because I love him. I love Tony Bradley at UNC. I'm a big UNC fan for anyone who doesn't know. And Tony Bradley has been bad. Like he has not done a thing. He's been good for like a couple boards a game, but he's like the best big we have on the team in terms of like playing down low because that's not really Vooch's game, and he can't do shit. God,
Oh no.
what's today's fucking date? It's the 6th. Because I can't find the ESPN box score and it's pissing me off. I want to see the shooting splits. There we go. Thank you. Now, was that so hard? Jesus. Um. Oh, he was one of. Oh no, he was 2 of 10. 1 of 7 from three.
Dear God.
Matt Thomas took 7 threes and made one.
That is awful.
Oh, I
That
said
is
Alfonso McKinney was
terrible.
playing meaningful minutes. He played 3 minutes. We're not as bad as I thought.
Okay.
Poor DeMar had to
We're
play.
still fine. We're still
Yeah, poor DeMar had to play 40 minutes. Dropped 45 though because that's what he does.
Oh my God.
That's his season high
That's
as well.
literally correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I'm sorry. Who is this? No, that's not Alfonso McKinney. The idiot underneath of him. Malcolm Hill played 22 minutes this game. Malcolm
Oh my
fucking
God.
Hill.
Who? Who?
He shot 1 of 3. Yeah. Hold on.
Man.
Tony Bradley had 3 rebounds. What did I say? He's good for like 3 rebounds a game. as our bench center. Matt Thomas out-rebounded him, damn it. He doubled his rebounding numbers.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Oh my god.
We shot 26.9% from three.
Oh wow, man.
And the Sixers shot 50%. Embiid dropped 40. Jesus. Oh, Io did not have a good game. He was 3 of 8 with 8 points. 7 assists,
The fact
though.
that you guys are winning games. The fact that you guys are still winning games, like one of the most impressive things in sports.
We were first in the East for a couple weeks. We lost it, and then we got it back. I don't think we're first in the East anymore.
Oh, you're second.
But I mean, yeah, we're literally walking out there. Our starting lineup was DeMar, Javonte Green, Troy Brown Jr., Vooch, and Io. With Alfonso McKinney, Hill, Tony Bradley, and Matt Thomas. Those were our 5 off the bench.
Dear God.
Yeah. And people are acting like the Bulls are washed. Zach LaVine isn't playing. Lonzo Ball isn't playing. Kobe White isn't playing. Caruso isn't playing. Patrick Williams hasn't played. Oh, but no, the Bulls are washed. The Bulls suck, everybody. They're so bad. I'm trying out fucking G Leaguers. God, I hate fans. I hate fans of sports so much. As a fan of sports, I hate them.
Yeah, I hate basketball fans a lot sometimes.
Okay, that brings me to the next thing I want to talk about. Okay. Now, we'll be able to circle this back to basketball in a minute. But I asked you about this before the podcast. David Montgomery is a top 10 running back in the NFL. I don't care what anyone says. He's a top 10 running back. If we don't think he's top 10, he's at least top 15. And there is this growing narrative that David Montgomery is not good because the advanced analytics say he's bad. And the reason I bring this up after talking about fans is because people love to talk when they don't know what they're talking about. You can look, okay, if you sit and look at numbers, and only numbers, you can look at numbers. I'm not saying stats are irrelevant. But if you sit down and you look at only numbers and try to argue how good or bad a player is that's playing currently just based off those numbers, you don't know sports. You don't know ball. Because if you're not watching these players play, if you're not seeing the context of these numbers, then you're missing half the game. You're missing most of the game.
Yeah, literally like 95% of it.
Mm-hmm. I saw a tweet a long time ago. I meant to make a TikTok about it. In fact, I might have. Where it was that tweet or that picture where it's 2 people on a bus and one's looking outside and they're like happy because it's happy outside, and the other one's looking towards the other side and it's like a mountain or like the wall, and they're sad, right? And the happy one, it was that boy nice watchers, and the other one was advanced analytic nerds. And unironically, that boy nice watchers are usually more educated than the people who sit and look at advanced analytics. Because David Montgomery, he's like one of the worst in the league in yards over expected. And that, to me, is the dumbest stat in the world. Because you cannot predict human nature. You cannot predict what a human's going to do. This isn't Madden. You can't write up a computer program with ones and zeros to predict how this player is going to play, to predict this player's production. You can't do it. If David Montgomery's yards over expected are low, first of all, he was hurt this year. Didn't play 5 games or 4 games. He was running behind one of, if not the worst offensive line in football. And advanced analytics will tell you otherwise, but I can tell you right now, I've watched every single game the Bears played this year multiple times. That offensive line is dog shit. And if you disagree, you didn't watch a single game that team played. So he's running behind one of the worst offensive lines in the league. He was a workhorse back, which means he's going to be running the ball a lot. And the Bears were struggling at quarterback this year. They were struggling to pass the ball. They had one of the worst passing offenses in the league, but were top 10 in rushing offense for most of the league. So if you're a defensive coordinator, you're going to key in on that. You're going to key in on the run game. So it's going to be a lot harder to run the ball if every week you're being keyed in on. So you put all those factors in it. Sure, David Montgomery's numbers are going to be a little low. Hold on. What?
Let me get in for a second.
I'm kind of busy.
All right.
Sorry about that. Once again, the beauty of this podcast, it's raw. You know,
Yep.
we record this. I don't know where you record yours, but I record mine in my bedroom, and my family does not like closed doors at all. So when I'm sitting in here for an hour 20 minutes with my door locked, they don't know how to act. They're coming to my door every 5 minutes. I have two little sisters, and they like to come in, and the youngest one, Bella, who will be 9. Oh dear God, no, she'll be 10. Yeah, she'll be 10. She's 9 now. She likes to come in and, she plays Minecraft all day and she wants to come in and show me her Minecraft builds. And when I lock her out for an hour, she gets antsier. My dad, he's doing whatever. He wants to come in and show me stuff. So they don't know how to act. But as I was saying, when you have a player that has all of those factors going against him, of course, whatever you expected him to do at the beginning of the season probably isn't going to be what comes out of it. Because this is a human. This is a human person. This is not a computer program. This isn't an AI. This is a human person, and you cannot predict what is going to come out of that player's production. You cannot predict, efficiently or accurately what they're going to do. You can make a guess. You can be like, oh, I think Joe Burrow is going to throw for 3,000 yards this year. And you'll probably be right. You can throw a ballpark estimate out there, but you can't create a formula to do that, And you can't be mad at the player when they don't reach your quota, when they don't reach what you expected them to do or whatever a formula expected them to do. And that's why I hate advanced analytics, because advanced analytics are either subjective or they are trying too hard to do something that isn't really possible, isn't really feasible. If you sit down, and I'm not even talking about sitting and watching the all 22 cam and watching film. For someone like a running back, if you just sit down and watch the game, you can tell Dave Montgomery's a good fucking running back. That dude runs hard. He does not go down on first contact. He's patient. He knows how to read a hole when they actually develop. He's the definition of a one-cut back. He's beautiful. He's a beautiful runner. Every time David Montgomery gets the ball in his hands, it is exciting. And he has been the only consistent piece since he's joined the Chicago Bears on offense. And you can say what you want about Allen Robinson. This year took him out of that conversation. David Montgomery is the only goddamn consistent player on this Bears offense. Excuse me. So for people to be like, I actually think he's kind of overrated because his yards over expected. Fuck yards over expected. Why don't you go expect some bitches, all right? Seriously, it's stupid. It's downright stupid. And I know you said you think advanced analytics are stupid for basketball as well. So do you want to elaborate on that? Because you would know better than I would.
Not only just advanced statistics, I think a lot of statistics are overrated in every sport. Like even in basketball, turnovers is a really bad one. Especially defensive stats as well. Because for turnovers, you can there's many different situations where a turnover can occur, and it can't even be your fault. It's the same thing with football.
Yeah,
like an interception.
Exactly. I was just about to say the exact same thing. Lamar Jackson, for example, had a really, really bad TD to interception ratio in the 8 games he played. I was watching a film breakdown of Lamar Jackson the other day, and there were multiple instances where Lamar literally hit a guy right on the money, and the dude bobbled the pass into a defender's hands. And Mahomes had a lot of that early on in the year where, his receivers can't catch. They're not good. They're not. Other than Tyreek, they don't have great hands. So you hit a guy in the hands and he bobbles it up. If there's a defender there and he comes down with it, that's on the quarterback, right? Yeah. And basketball is the same way with turnovers, where if you're a point guard and you're like a Chris Paul or Russell Westbrook and you're a primary distributor, I'm talking prime Westbrook, not whatever the hell the Lakers have right now, like real Russell Westbrook. You're gonna have 10 turnovers a game because that's all you're doing is passing the ball. And eventually, they're gonna jump a lane. You're gonna get a guy that again bobbles the ball out of his hands into somebody else's, or you're gonna pass to a guy and he's gonna miss it and it's gonna go out of bounds, and that goes against you. And I think that's bullshit. And I'm not
Yeah,
proposing some rule change where you have to review every turnover and actually determine who's at fault or whatever. I'm just saying you need to take that kind of stuff with a grain of salt. Because
that's why what Chris Paul has done is in his career is so like impressive because he has been like the kind of glitch where like he's like that super he has the ball in his hands all the time,
mm-hmm,
but the stats don't reflect that he is inefficient at all. Like he's just super efficient. And you can also tell that when he plays that he's careful
mm-hmm,
and he's like he doesn't turn the ball over at all.
yeah,
It's you. That's why it's so hard to make comparisons, especially between eras as well,
mm-hmm,
because like with somebody in like the '70s, you don't have the same type of film that you have of somebody today.
right. And if you're just going off numbers, you compare 1972 to 2022. It's two different sports. It's two
Literally,
completely different sports, and you can't compare the numbers because guys back then, they were scoring. You'd be lucky to get 30 points a game. Now you got a guy scoring 30 every night.
yeah.
The scoring today is ridiculous, and it's so hard to compare. And it's a little bit different I think once you hit like the 90s, like if you're looking at, for example, LeBron versus Jordan, it's a lot easier because there's a lot more film out there on Jordan, and he's also
Yeah.
Michael fucking Jordan. Like we know who he is. But yeah, back in the olden days, like Bob Cousy era, Bob Pettit era, guys like that. I honestly, that's a whole other thing I could get into, and I will get into it after we finish this. Um, but continue what you were saying.
Yeah, it's like that's why it's so hard to debate because
Mm-hmm.
the stats don't tell everything, and like everybody knows that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you literally are like that's what every debate like between eras boils down to
Mm-hmm.
is the difference in stats, and the difference in totals, and all that, and that's why it's so confusing and so painful to talk and debate about that because it's always opinionated. It's
Yeah.
always the stats always tell a different story to everyone. It's
Mm-hmm.
not always the stats don't tell one story. It's like the stats can disprove or uh, it can prove an opinion that you have,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why it's so hard.
Yeah, a good example of that this year with the NFL was Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is not that good. He's a very mid quarterback. I think that's the perfect word to describe Kirk Cousins is mid. And
Yeah,
I have a buddy who's a Vikings fan that I talk to a lot about the Vikings, and he was actually the one who pointed this out to me and put me onto this because I never thought Kirk was that good, but I didn't realize just how bad he was. This is a guy that you look at the stats, he's like you'd think he's a top five quarterback. He's putting up
yeah,
good numbers, but his numbers are coming from just checkdowns. He's throwing the ball short. He's not throwing it efficiently. And the man even said in an interview one time this year that he's scared to push the ball downfield. He has Justin Jefferson. That's the best deep threat receiver in the league. You cannot consider yourself a good quarterback if you're afraid to throw the ball to him downfield. You can't. But you have these idiot Vikings fans out here, which, by the way, Vikings fans, I hate you. You have these idiot Vikings fans out here who are pushing this Kirk Cousins is top 10 narrative, and it's just not true. He's not that good. Plain and simple, he's not that good. But because of these numbers, because he's putting up a bunch of yards, his interception numbers are low. He's the best. He's top 10. He's the best quarterback in the NFC North once Aaron Rodgers leaves, which actually might be true considering his competition is an unproven Justin Fields and Jared Goff, but I digress.
yeah.
But that other thing I wanted to get into, I have noticed a lot, and this might just be because I'm an old head, right? I'm only 18, but I'm an old head, and I'm proud of it. I love old music. I love old sports. I love old movies. I'm an old head, but not in the sense of like I was born in the wrong generation shit. That's stupid. I just like to appreciate the old stuff.
Yeah, of course.
People are so disrespectful to athletes who played before the modern era. It is ridiculous. Like the Bears, and again, it always comes back to the Bears. Our best quarterback in franchise history was Sid Luckman, who played in the 1940s and the 1950s. Hall of Fame quarterback. He won MVP. That's a pretty damn good resume. But because of the the generational divide, people our age and people younger and people a little bit older think he sucks. He wouldn't hold a candle to today's NFL. He'd be a third string quarterback in today's NFL. Who fucking cares? He doesn't play in today's NFL. He played in his NFL. And when he played in his NFL, he was a damn good football player. It comes
Yeah.
back to what you said about how hard it is to compare athletes then to now because technology's different, medicine's different, training's different. They take it a lot more seriously now. Back then, some of those guys, that was like their second job. Today, this is, you train from the time you're like 4 years old to go be a pro. It's completely different. But people refuse to accept that. Like, yeah, realistically, if you put Sid Luckman in today's NFL, he's not going to be good. He's going to get bodied. He's going to suck. But who cares? Because he doesn't play in today's NFL. It's just an unfair comparison. And just because he played back in the day, that doesn't give you the excuse to just shit on him whenever you want. And it's the same way with the NBA. Bob Cousy's the one I see people always go to, and I think it's just because 2K has a weird obsession with Bob Cousy, where he's
Yeah.
like in every 2K in my team. He's always one of the like players that gets the most cards. But Bob Cousy probably wouldn't be good in today's NBA because he wasn't, some elite shooter. The 3-point shot wasn't his thing back then. And as a point guard, it's going to be pretty damn hard to get away with just being a distributor. So it's like, yeah, you have a point, but it's stupid. It's a stupid point. It's a stupid argument to make. And I agree. I absolutely agree. It's stupid to just compare players across generations because it's different sports. The NBA in 1962 is different than 2022. The NFL in 1922 is different than 2022. The NFL is a league that's been around for 100 years. It's evolved. It's changed. The NBA has been around for, 75 years now? It's evolved.
Yeah.
It's changed. It's ridiculous to even try to make that comparison. You appreciate greatness for what it is relative to its era and move on from there. That's how I
I
like
was
to
gonna
look at it.
say, I look at it like for me, the biggest debate between eras is like Wilt Chamberlain. Like, where do
Mm-hmm.
you put Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell all time?
Right.
And I have them. It's very hard to rate them because Wilt was like easily the most dominant person maybe in any sport ever
Yeah.
because he was just literally above everyone else in every single way possible. But like that, it's super hard to put him up higher because you wouldn't think that he would be that talented in today's NBA. But the thing is, this man in his time, in his chance in the NBA, he was like one of the best.
Yeah.
And another thing about this argument is that like we say that now, and then in like 30, 40 years, it'll be another phase of this different sport.
Exactly. They're gonna have like
And
the
all these
6 point
players,
line in the NBA by then. Oh, LeBron never
yeah,
shot a 6 pointer, so he's garbage. Like that's what we're gonna be dealing with in 20, 30 years. That's the thing about sports. They're forever evolving. They're always changing. If we even have certain sports, 20, 30 years, we might not have football. The way it's trending with these head injuries and the NFL getting into new shit every week, we might not have it in 20, 30 years. But with basketball,
yeah,
it's not as heavy of a contact sport, so it's more likely to survive. And I'm not saying basketball isn't a contact sport. I know it is. There's a lot of contact, but like it's not the same as football where you're hitting helmets with
yeah,
everybody
for
every play.
sure.
But it's always going to be evolving. So even the guys you're looking at right now, they're like you said, they're going to be pushed to the wayside here in 20, 30 years. But it's just such a hard argument to make and such a stupid argument to make, in my opinion. Although I do think Wilt Chamberlain would be pretty dominant regardless of the era. That dude was just a freak. But Bill Russell, I agree. I think Bill Russell might struggle a little bit just because back then centers were a lot smaller. He was only like, what, 6'9"?
Yeah, he was relatively short, but he was still.
Well, no, he was
It's
still a
so.
beast. Yeah.
No, he's still dominant. He's still great defensive anchor. But like
Right.
the thing is, I just like it is just a pointless argument to make because you can say like, well, if blank was
Exactly.
blank, then blank blank. But that's like it didn't happen. Like it
Yeah.
literally never happened. You can't
It's
debate it.
all
It's a
hypothetical.
hypothetical.
You cannot debate hypotheticals. Exactly. Thank you. That is such a true statement. You cannot debate hypotheticals. You can do it for fun, like fuck around, like, I got a fucking Marvel poster behind me. It's like, what if Captain America fought Batman? Like, you can do dumb shit like that. But if you're trying
Yeah.
to have a legitimate argument in sports, you can't be like, well, if LeBron played in the '90s, then he would put up 50 points a game or whatever. You can't do that, which he wouldn't, by the way. kind of backtracking what I'm saying. LeBron wouldn't do it, but it's such a stupid argument to make. It all comes back to, and I'm guilty of it too. Everyone wants to rank everything. Everyone wants to categorize everything because it's human nature to try to put everything in a certain order.
Yeah.
And it's weird, but I do it. Like I'm very guilty of it.
For sure.
But it's a weird concept. And I don't know, like another example of it. While we're just rattling off examples, Jim Brown, one of the best running backs of all time. He was a running back playing against defensive linemen that were smaller than he was. So obviously, he's going to have an easier time than guys today or guys in the '90s, guys in the '80s, whatever. But he's still Jim fucking Brown. Dude was still an animal. Dude was still top 3 running back all time. Doesn't matter what era he played in. He's Jim Brown. And then with the stats thing, circling back to that, another example of that is Emmitt Smith, who I don't think is a top 5 running back all time. He's the NFL's leading rusher all time. But when you put his numbers into context, I think it's less impressive because he was running behind the Great Wall of Dallas, which is the single greatest offensive line to ever play. I think if you put a guy like, and again, it's hypotheticals. If you put a guy like Barry Sanders or Walter Payton behind that line, they're taking that record and they're shattering it. Or if Barry Sanders or Walter Payton don't retire early, Walter got sick, Barry got bored. If they don't retire early, they're shattering rushing records. And I just hate arguments that are completely based off statistics, especially when you get into advanced statistics, because they're numbers. They're not humans. They're not the people. You can't argue somebody just based off the numbers, and people default to it because it's easier, because it takes less effort. Just a quick Google search, you can look up who had the most passing yards. You look at it, it's Tom Brady, he's the best, which in that instance it's actually valid, but it's because it's easier, and people like to take the easy way out. And I'm not, it kind of sounds like I'm trying to call people casuals, and I'm not, but it's just a shortcut. It's a cheap shortcut. And I think it's pointless, and it doesn't tell you the full story.
And the thing about advanced statistics as well, they're like new,
right?
They're like just born. They're super young.
Mm-hmm.
So like with like a player like Wilt, like we said, literally half of the statistics that exist today didn't exist back then. So they're not recorded. So you can't compare them on an even playing field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no one was looking at fucking Wilt Chamberlain's efficiency stats when he was playing. They were just looking at, that dude just had 50 rebounds. That's sick. Like,
that's nuts.
Yeah. Or like back in the 90s with football, nobody was looking for 80s with football, nobody was looking for Walter Payton's yards over expected. The dude was just jumping over people and putting up 100 yards a game. People were like, wow, he's really good. See, that's why I don't like this generation of sports fans. And this is going to sound bad. Because they don't appreciate the game for what it is. If you're sitting there and you're watching football or you're watching basketball, you can take it all in. You can appreciate it. You're witnessing it in motion. But nowadays, everyone, rather than, like I said, they take the short route instead of watching the game to go on their phone. Who had the most, who led the league in passing yards this week? And that's how they formulate their opinions. They're not actually watching the game. They're not sitting down and watching the game. They're looking at these numbers that most of the time don't matter.
Yeah.
And I know I sound like an old head. I know I sound like a grandpa yelling at people on his front lawn. I don't care. I have a very old school approach to sports, and I'm proud of it because I feel like I appreciate the game a lot more than some people do. And I'm not saying it's the correct way. I'm not saying it's the only way. Like sports are sports. They're for everybody. You can enjoy them how you want. If you just want to sit and look at the numbers, that's fine. But when I come at you and we're having an argument, don't get cocky, don't get arrogant, don't become entitled just because you think you know more because you have the numbers. If you're someone who just looks at the numbers casually and you're like, oh, well, I think this, but, I don't get the full picture, so maybe so-and-so is better. Like, that's better, But it just seems to me that, at least the people I've talked to, at least the people I've argued with, debated with, If you're someone who just sits and looks at the numbers and looks at the analytics and doesn't watch the game, you become an asshole about it. Point blank,
Yeah.
period. You become an asshole about it because you think you know better than everyone and you feel smarter than everyone because you're looking at numbers. But at the end of the day, sports are so much more than numbers. Numbers can't quantify everything in sports. Numbers can't quantify a player's impact. Numbers, you can try. You can damn sure try, but you can't do it. It's just not possible. And kind of branching off of that, like people go crazy over these weird records that players set. Like I remember a couple years ago, Draymond did something. He was the first player in NBA history to do something, and everyone was mocking it. Like he was the first player in NBA history to score 5 points on a Saturday night when the temperature was exactly 33 degrees Fahrenheit and the wind chill was at 12 degrees or something stupid, making fun of it. Stats, while important, are incredibly overrated. That's the point I'm trying to make here. That's the long-winded point I'm trying to make here, is that stats are incredibly overrated. And that if you just sit down and watch the game, you'll have a better time, you'll learn a lot more, and you'll be able to judge players a lot better.
The eye test is a lot better. The eye test is the best test for any sort of sport to tell if a person is talented or not.
And the glory of the eye test too is it's you forming your own opinion, right? There's no influence. Like maybe if you're watching the game with somebody or you listen to the announcers, you might be a little bit influenced. But if you're looking at numbers, you're going to run with that, right? These advanced statistics, they're made up by dudes sitting behind a desk, right? You're playing into their narratives, you're playing into their biases, and if you're watching the game yourself, you're forming your own opinions. That's a lot better. I respect that a lot more. I respect someone who forms their own opinion and is wrong or I don't agree with them a lot more than someone who just listens to other people's opinions and claims them as their own. Because, again, that's another issue. That's another thing that has become very, very apparent in sports, is that people are just taking other people's opinions and running with them and becoming assholes about it. That's the thing. If you do that and you're chill about it, by all means. But once you become an asshole about it, once you become arrogant about it, that's where the problem lies. I've been doing a lot of ranting today. I'm sorry.
It's the name of the podcast, man.
Yeah, I've managed to keep my temper down a little bit, but that's the beauty of things. Is that I don't know, I can just kind of say whatever I want on here. As long as I don't pull a Joe Rogan, I'm pretty solid on here. Did you hear about that? Completely unrelated.
No, I did not.
Okay, Joe Rogan, you know who he is, obviously.
Of course.
He had 70 episodes of his podcast taken down off of Spotify because he used the N-word. 70 episodes of him using the N-word.
Dear God.
How fucking stupid can you be?
That is insane.
This is a man with a large following. With a large following on his podcast, just casually dropping the N-word on it. And I don't know how Spotify just now found out about it or just now got around to taking it down, first of all. Like, that's a problem. But 70 episodes. Bro was trying to set records with how quick he can get canceled, which I hate cancel culture, but 70 different episodes. What the fuck?
That is insane.
Yeah.
That is nuts.
Yeah. But my point is, that's the beauty of podcasts. As long as we're not doing that, we can just kind of do whatever we want here, as long as we stick to our brand.
Yes, of course.
Which is unfortunate because we haven't gotten to do a lot of the and more for the sports and more. It's just been sports so far.
Oh yeah. Branch out.
Branch out. Of course. That was kind of all we had planned. But let's improvise some stuff. That TikTok you posted that I mentioned earlier, where it was you giving your starting lineup for your all-time favorite players at each position. Let's run through ours. I'll let you go first. Give your 5. Explain a little bit why. Just basically reenact your TikTok live right now.
Okay. Let's talk about it.
Hey, that's my thing.
My favorite point.
That's my thing.
What?
That's my line.
I'm sorry. I literally. Yeah, probably. I mean.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Nah, it's just my base. This is my base. Okay. But it's Rondo, MJ, It was like a tie between Larry Bird, Paul Pierce, and Jayson Tatum.
Okay.
And it was Kevin Garnett.
Hmm.
I forget who the center is, and that is awkward. I'm gonna go find it right now.
Clearly, you don't care about that center enough.
Oh no, I really don't.
Fraudulent fan.
Fraudulent fan of whoever the center is.
It's gonna be something like Shaq. I don't remember who it is either.
I literally think it is Shaq.
Boston Celtic legend Shaquille O'Neal.
Yes. 1 second. We're almost there.
I love how
No,
unprofessional.
I said Shaq. I
said Shaq. I knew it. I knew it.
I said Rondo because I love his passes. His highlights are so cool to watch, and I love everybody that so much. First sports
Hold
team
on,
I've ever gotten into.
You cut out. What did you just say?
No. I love every single player that was on that 2000 Celtics.
Oh, okay.
And I feel like Rondo wasn't like one of the biggest parts of that team. He was like the best player or whatever, but like it was just that he was like there and he was contributing, and he like I just loved watching highlights of his passes even back then, like with the I'm amazing sound to it on YouTube.
Yeah.
No, and I just love watching those highlights, and I loved his attitude until he had an attitude with the Celtics, and then he's now like moving around everywhere. He's on the Cavs now, which is like
is that where he's at?
Left field. Yeah, it's so out of left field. Nobody really knows about it. I don't even know how he got there.
Rondo's been everywhere. We were talking earlier about him being on the Bulls. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I loved him. I loved his highlights. I loved his headband. I just love players' headband.
I do too.
You know,
dude, if you're rocking a headband, that's elite.
The bald to headband combination is nuts.
I got one of those on mine. A bald headband. Yeah. I do. And then I have someone else who wore a headband, but he isn't quite bald. We'll get to that in a minute.
And then I have MJ. I just love the way he played. I said in the video that his highlights make me want to like go and play basketball. And it's just I just loved that era as well. I love his attitude is like something that I like. It's just inspiring, honestly. I loved The Last Dance too. It was genuinely like an incredible watch. He wasn't my favorite before that. It was like Kobe before that, but then it was Michael as soon as that happened.
Respectable.
As soon as The Last Dance. I loved Paul Pierce because, of course, 2008 he was probably the best player on that team. But I'm starting to lose respect for him because he's like becoming one of those like reporters where he just says like a crazy opinion.
Didn't he say he was better than Dwayne Wade?
Yeah, he's been saying stuff like that a lot.
The only thing that stands out, listen, I didn't watch basketball back then. You know, I don't know a whole lot about Paul Pierce in his prime. But the first thing that always comes to mind with Paul Pierce is was it him? It was him that like had to shit, and they put him in a wheelchair to take him into the locker room, right? Yeah. Yeah. That's the first thing that comes to mind with Paul Pierce. I don't remember him as a player that well, but him taking a shit. that's the first thing that comes to mind.
That was in the playoff run too, wherever he won the championship. It's nuts. But yeah, and so he's like the third out of my small forwards. Second is Jayson Tatum. I just love the way he plays. He's like the same thing with MJ, where it's like watching him play is like I just want to play basketball right now. But I think that a point that a lot of people don't say when they're a Celtics fan and they're talking about Jayson Tatum is that he's like wildly inefficient from night to night. And that's what makes me not like him because not like him as much as Larry Bird because he dropped 51 in the one game that I went to watch, but a couple games before that he shot 0 for 20 uh, like in a
Jesus.
span of like however many games for three.
Hmm.
And then he came back and he hit like his career high in 3-pointers. That doesn't matter. He missed 20 before that.
Hmm.
And then you have Larry Bird, which is the best Celtic, of
Larry Legend,
course.
the
Larry
man who
Legend.
almost ruined his basketball career by paving a driveway. Still one of the coolest. Still just like one of the funniest stories ever.
The legends around him are so cool.
There's a reason
And I
he's
love
called Larry Legend. I love Larry Bird.
exactly.
That dude was an
My
enigma. Literally an enigma.
he was a glitch before that
Yeah.
even existed.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that. I also love this. It's like a generational. Dad watched Larry
Hmm.
Celtics fan, and it's just so cool to see
Dude,
stuff like that.
I could sit and watch Larry Bird beat the shit out of people all day too. Like that was my favorite thing with Larry Bird, was the fact that he would just beat the shit out of people.
Yeah, it's my favorite era too, because like that
Mhm.
was back when there would literally be street fights
Yeah.
on court.
And Larry Bird would be at the center of all of them.
Yeah,
I forget. I think it's Bill Laimbeer that he just absolutely beat the shit out
yeah,
of once.
just
And
rocked them.
yeah. I love that. I love players back in the day. That's such an underrated aspect of basketball in the 80s and 90s, is the fact that they would literally get into street fights in the middle of games. And I love that because they're always so entertaining.
Yeah,
And then they try to do that nowadays, and people like LeBron James will let a wall form in front of him and then run his mouth while the other guy's being pushed away like some sort of pansy. But I digress. Go ahead, continue.
then I love Kevin Garnett.
Hmm.
Every story about Kevin Garnett is hilarious. He's like also kept like the perfect amount of like integrity after retirement as well. Like he's in just enough things where I'm like, oh my god, that's Kevin Garnett. I love him, but it's also not like, oh, he's trying to do other stuff
Right.
to like jump off of his popularity. Like he was in Uncut Gems out of
That was
nowhere.
such a great cameo. That movie's so good.
Exactly.
I love that movie.
Bop.
I did not expect that movie to be good. And I love Adam Sandler. I'm an Adam Sandler fan. In fact, if you look, I got a Waterboy poster. I'm like obsessed with Adam Sandler. And I did not expect that movie to be good. And I loved it.
No, yeah. I love Kevin Garnett. I love the stories that players tell about. I love
Mhm.
the Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Although it's extremely messed up. It's
Mhm.
so messed up. It's just like he was like an out of time. He was like a time capsule to like
Yeah.
an 80s big man. I love that his nickname is the Big Ticket too. That's probably my favorite name of all time.
Yeah.
Because he was just like literally everybody knew that the reason that there were Timberwolves fans is because of him.
I
And I
never
think that
knew
that's
that
just
was why it was
awesome.
called the Big Ticket. It makes sense. But I never knew that was the origin of that.
No, it's just because like he's like the
Yeah.
ticket. Like you get
Yeah.
tickets because of him. Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
And then I love Shaq because he's hilarious. He's still.
Hmm.
I love the clips of him on the Celtics. The one clip of him when they say that he got like. I think that's hilarious.
Hold on, you cut out.
He's
What was it?
dear God, man.
I know it's bad. I'm sorry. My computer's like shitting itself currently.
No, I love like the clips. He's hilarious. First of all,
Hmm.
the clip of him when he got fined for whatever he got fined for, and he runs around and he's like tackling people.
Hmm.
I love his relationship with Kobe. I think
Yeah.
it's so heartwarming. It was so heartwarming.
Him telling that
Uh,
story at Kobe's, like the remembrance thing where he was like, the teammates were bitching about Kobe not giving the ball, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll go talk to Kobe," and he's like, "Kobe, there's no I in team," and Kobe responds, "Yeah, well, there's an ME in that motherfucker." Like that's the best basketball story ever. I love
yeah,
that. That's incredible.
and I think that I think he's underrated all time. Honestly, for sure. Like he's sometimes not even in people's top 10, but
Easily the
he's
most
so
dominant player
dominant.
ever. Most dominant player ever. Easily.
Yeah. I love he wasn't even like it wasn't even like he was on one team for so long. Like usually
Hmm.
that he went on a lot of different, but like everything would seem to be like it's a respectable move. Like he went from
Hmm.
Orlando to to the Heat,
Hmm.
and he was always successful, and it was just so cool to see somebody do that
Uh-huh.
like so efficiently and so effectively.
I also love the stories of Shaq after he stopped playing, all the like charity work he does. Like, or
Yeah.
not charity work, but like the acts of kindness he does. Like I saw this TikTok the other day. I think it was Bleacher Report posted it. And he was at a shoe store and this little kid was throwing a fit in the line. So he walks over and he goes, "What's wrong?" And he said he couldn't get any shoes. And Shaq goes, "Well, why not?" And his parents come over and they go, "Oh, we just came to get him a jacket." And Shaq goes, "Well, you go over and you apologize to your dad right now," because he was like running his mouth to his dad. He goes, "You go apologize to him right now." And he goes and apologizes to him. And Shaq literally palms the kid's head like it's a basketball. Because it's a little
Yeah.
bald kid. And he's like walking him down the aisles and he's like teaching him the importance of respecting your parents and whatnot. And he's like, "You pick out 3 pairs. You pick out 3 pairs." Bought him 3 pairs of shoes like it was nothing. Um, and then he bought his dad a jacket as well because his dad wanted to get a jacket. And then the comments, everyone was talking about how cool it was that Shaq bought the kid whatever shoes he wanted, even though he has his own shoes out there. He's buying him competitor brands because I think he got him like a pair of Kyries and a pair of Currys and a pair of Kobe's or something like that.
Yeah.
And then there's a story, of course, where the mom was trying to buy laptops for kids for school and she couldn't afford it. So Shaq bought her like 8 laptops. Like, that's awesome. I love that. I'd
He's
love,
genuinely a great
yeah,
guy.
Shaq is a wonderful human. Absolutely wonderful. Shaq's the kind of guy that you want to meet and just sit down and talk to for hours on end just because he has so
Yeah.
many interesting stories. He's such an interesting figure. He's such a great person. Shaq's wonderful. I love Shaq.
Yeah. Who doesn't love Shaq? I'm literally suspicious of you being like a psycho if you don't love Shaq.
If you don't love Shaquille O'Neal, you hate puppies.
I would actually agree with that
Yeah.
100%.
Every time someone says, "I don't like Shaquille O'Neal," a puppy dies.
Yeah,
And that's just facts.
exactly.
That's just facts. Um, so, my five. I talked about him earlier, Jason Williams. Just fun. He's just
Yeah.
fun. I love um, guys like Jason Williams who weren't necessarily superstars, but they were walking highlight reels. Like Jason
Yeah.
Williams is not a Hall of Fame basketball player. He's not, an All NBA guy. But the way he passed the ball. I don't know if there's a better passer ever in terms of just like what he was able to do with the
Just
ball. Because
pure
like
talent.
the no look passes between the legs around dudes, it was nuts. And then the fact that he has that connection to Randy Moss with football, where he was his
Yeah.
high school quarterback. I love that. That's awesome. And then shooting guard, Michael Jordan, obviously, Bulls fan. Michael Jordan's the reason I love basketball. Michael Jordan's the greatest of all time. I own 3 Michael Jordan jerseys. There's a Michael Jordan Funko Pop up there. There's Michael Jordan starting lineup figure up there. He's Michael fucking Jordan. What else do you need to say? He's the greatest to ever do it. His mentality, stupid. Stupid good. Watching The Last Dance, like you said, made me appreciate him so much more. I just love him to death. And then small forward, you asked me this. No, I'm not even going to say that because it's always been this guy. But if you asked me this a couple months ago, I'd put Scottie Pippen in the running. But Scottie Pippen went off the rails recently. I don't know what his problem is. I don't know what caused it. But Scotty's in a weird place right now. I'm not rocking with him.
Yeah. I made a video about that.
Yeah.
He's just like roasting MJ out of nowhere
For
and all
no reason. It's jealousy. Scotty's jealous.
that. Yeah.
I love Pippen. I love what he did. I thank him for what he did. The Bulls did do him dirty there at the end. But Scotty's jealous, point blank, period. But my favorite small forward of all time is Jimmy G Buckets. The G stands for gets. Again, when I first got into basketball, that was the guy on the Bulls. Jimmy Butler was the guy. I still cry myself to sleep at night knowing we traded Larry Markin or got Larry Markin and out of trading him. We did get Zach LaVine though, and Zach LaVine. I love Zach.
Yeah.
He's my second favorite shooting guard of all time. But Jimmy's my guy. He's always been my guy. I wanted the Heat to win the finals so bad when they were in the bubble because I want Jimmy to get a ring so bad. The story of him with the Timberwolves, taking third stringers and blowing out the starters. Probably my second favorite basketball story ever behind I would say second behind Michael Jordan's, behind Michael Jordan shooting the close-eyed free throws. That's my favorite. That or when Mike shrugged at Magic Johnson. Those are my two favorite. And then that's next. And then the Shaq, the Kobe, there's an ME in that. I don't know. There's just so many great basketball stories, but I love Jimmy Butler, and he was the guy I was talking about earlier when he had like the ninja headband. That was
Yeah,
badass. I don't care
that
what
was
anyone
so
said.
cool.
That was
That was
badass.
so cool.
Um, and then power forward, I have Tim Duncan. First of all, I'm an old school guy. I love old school ball. The man's called the
Yeah,
Big
he's the most
Fundamental.
old school.
He's the
Yeah, the
Big
most old
Fundamental.
school player of all time.
Little known fact, he's a diehard Bears fan.
Really?
Yeah, he actually missed a game one year because the Bears were playing the Seahawks in the playoffs. And he either missed it or showed up late so he could watch the game.
Oh
Um,
my god.
yeah, he had to fly in. It was a regular season game, so it wasn't like he missed a playoff game or something. But he either showed up late, didn't show up, or left early. It was one of the three. Somehow, watching a Bears game impacted him playing in a game. And then center, I have Dikembe Mutombo. He's Dikembe Mutombo.
Oh my
Like what
god.
else do I
Yeah.
have to say? It's Dikembe Mutombo. The fucking no, not in my house. I love that. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And then the story again, another great story where Dikembe was talking shit to Mike during the All-Star game. You haven't gotten me yet. Scotty got me, but you haven't gotten me. And then Mike went and dunked on him like a couple weeks later.
Yeah.
I love Dikembe Mutombo. He's just one of those guys that like it's hard to explain. You just got to know who Dikembe Mutombo is to understand it.
Yeah. And you just love him for it, man.
Yeah.
He was just a defensive beast. I
Mhm.
love players like that.
Yeah. Yeah, he was an absolute powerhouse defensively. But yeah, those are my guys. Those are your guys. I don't know how long we've been recording for. I'm trying to think of other things we can talk about to fill time. But I also don't want to like overstay our welcome here and record too long.
Yeah. The weird balance.
Yeah, I bit my tongue and it's bleeding and it hurts. So that's
Dear
fun.
God, man.
Yeah, I was chomping on mints and I bit my tongue and now it's bleeding in the back corner. And it's ouchy.
How long ago?
Like 5 minutes ago. It's not that bad. I have had to piss for like 40 minutes though.
No, I had that issue like in the first episode.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I can technically I can pause this, but I just can't be bothered because I'm lazy.
It's not genuine enough.
Yeah,
We're keeping
you got to keep it 100. We try to do minimal editing for now until I figure out how to edit, and then it's gonna.
And then we're
gonna change it. But that's one of the beautiful things of recording on a Chromebook is we're recording this on Discord. I'm fuzzy as hell, and I look the wrong way. I just noticed that. I just happened to look at my eyes. I'm looking this way, and the camera's this way. But like for some reason, I'm looking. I don't know what it is. I'm not looking into the camera while I'm talking. Maybe it's because I can't see you. Maybe once I see you, I'll be looking this way, and that's a little bit better. But for now, while we're recording a podcast, I can't talk. While we're recording a podcast on a Chromebook, which actually might not be the case by the end of the month because my birthday's at the end of the month. I'm going to try to get a laptop for my birthday. I'm turning 19. God. I'm an adult. Yeah, I'm an adult. That doesn't register with me. Let's see here. What else is going on? I changed my major officially the other day. Officially, I am now a mass communications major, and I'm going to minor in journalism. So, sports career.
Going hard, going into it.
I got that. I'm gonna have that safety net. If all goes to shit, I can go be a small town radio host, which sounds delightful. Honestly,
yeah, there are worse lives.
Yeah, it's a nice quaint little existence. But if ESPN's still a thing by the time I'm qualified, that'd be great. Trying to think what's the best way to put this. I actually tweeted out a couple tweets a couple nights ago, late at night. I was doing some thinking. And I think I cited Kenny Beecham as my number one inspiration, which is true. I aspire to do what that man does because he's living my dream. He started making fucking 2K videos, and now he's interviewing the biggest names in the NBA. He's got his own podcast. He works for House of Highlights. Like that would be incredible. He's making a living talking about sports. I'm doing this for free right now.
Yeah.
And I know TikTok's like the worst place to get that started because you can't make money on TikTok no matter how big you are. So that's why I'm starting like the podcast, and I'm trying to get people to follow me on Twitter so I can make connections. Like I was looking at my Twitter the other day. Speaking of which, there are a lot of people with check marks that follow me. It's strange.
Hey.
Yeah, yeah, but I don't know good ways to build connections with those people because that's what I need. I need to start branching out. Um, but yeah, that's the goal. We're gonna talk sports forever, and one day I'll get to meet Justin Fields, and I'll give him a big old kiss on the forehead. I'll be like, "You are the source of all my happiness."
No, literally, like clip that, and like there's gonna be a
Yeah,
crazy
like
TikTok edit at some point in time.
yeah.
You're gonna be like 30 or like 25 to 30, and you're gonna be
God,
like,
do you
there's gonna
think
be a clip of
TikTok's
you
gonna be
kissing him on the
around that
forehead.
long?
No, it's gonna
I
implode here
hope
in like
not.
2 years.
um, that's something I've always wondered. Like, I'm not. I've never like looked myself up on TikTok or anything, and I guess people normally tag you in those kind of things. But I wonder how many people have like clipped my old takes and been like, "This dude's stupid," you
This
know?
dude is the worst take ever. No,
Yeah,
that's something that I think about too.
yeah. And it's like it's not like it bothers me, you know. When I say something, I'm confident in it. My opinions might change, my ideas might change. I'm never gonna go like back on it. I'm never gonna be like, "Oh, well, I didn't actually mean it." I'll be like, "Yeah, I was a fucking idiot," you know. Like I used to be. I'm trying to think of someone I might have been like way off on. I've been talking a lot about Trey Lance and how I don't think he's
Yeah.
going to be that good. When he's inevitably a Hall of Famer, then I'm going to be looking back at that like, yikes,
Ooh.
yeah. Um, that's the weird thing that I guess I don't really think about too much about making things on the internet is that that's there. Anyone can see it, and I'm not bothered by it in the sense that
Forever.
like I'm scared of it. But imagine like one day I have a video right now that has like 80,000 views of me laughing at the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback situation. Imagine I get a comment one day from Mason Rudolph. That's fucking scary. Like
Yeah.
that's not something that would like make me take it back, but it's awkward, you know.
Yeah.
Like yeah,
Yeah. When you
yeah,
meet the people you're talking about.
right. Like assuming that ever happens, which that's the goal. You know, one day that's the goal. Um, like I see all these people who get invited out to like, meet with NFL teams and make videos with NFL teams and stuff. That's the dream. I one day, I made a business email for a reason, right? One day, if I get an email from the Chicago Bears, you have no idea how quick I will be in Chicago, ready on my hands and knees, begging these people to let me work with them. Like
Yeah.
I'm so down bad for the Chicago Bears, and you can quote me on that.
No, I will.
Uh, yeah, I think we've been going for about an hour. Andrew, is there anything else you wanna say? I did a lot of
I
talking today.
I did a lot more than I usually do. I'm proud of
Yeah,
myself.
this is we have
Slowly
a
building.
we have a bad dynamic with that. I do a lot of talking and don't give you a lot of time to talk.
It's literally only because I don't have my camera on.
Yeah, that's true.
Change. It'll change when I
Yeah,
get this new webcam that I've been talking about.
yeah. Um, yeah. I think that's good for today. Um, I've been your host, David, with my co-host Andrew. If you guys don't already, make sure to follow us on TikTok. I'm at BearsCool2211. Andrew is at WattyWatt. We make a lot of sports content. He's more basketball. I'm more football. So if you're interested in following either of us, if you want to see my cute mug, consistently, or you want to see his that you can't see currently if you don't know what he looks like, make sure to go look him up. Andrew, is there anything else you want to plug?
No, I don't really have anything else for the time being, but I'm looking to expand, get
Mm-hmm.
connections on this episode.
Yeah. Make sure to follow me on Twitter then. It's at BearsCool22. I know my branding isn't consistent because I made a Musically account under the name BearsCool22 that I can't get into and change the name of. So I'm kind of stuck for now. But follow me on Twitter. I do a lot of twittering and tweetering and whatnot. Um, so yeah, that's been this episode of the Hot and Cold Sports Podcast. It was kind of everywhere, but that's okay because that's what it is. We're just two dudes doing the thing,
You know?
and yeah, we're just two dudes doing the thing and getting it done. So yeah, that is all for today. Goodbye.